Hey everybody, Happy New Year and welcome back to the channel. I know it's been a minute, but let's get straight into this video. Y'all, we need to stop playing around with sin. And more particularly, we need to stop playing around with temptation. We have this very terrible habit of negotiating with temptation as if our willpower is enough to be able to fight off the things that we've been trying to give up or we've been trying to walk away from for our entire lives. If it were that easy, Adam and Eve, they would have never eaten from the fruit of the tree that God commanded them not to. But the fact that they stayed there and kept on entertaining the serpent and kept on, just reasoning with him. And even though they were saying all the right things, like, no, God said blah, 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 but why are you still here entertaining this person, entertaining this creature that is telling you, that is trying to steer you away from what God originally told you? But we do this every day. What does that look like in our lives? It looks like when we know that we're not supposed to go somewhere, right? Because we know that we'll be tempted, like let's say, like I'm trying to be more faithful to my husband, or a man trying to be faithful to his wife. And you know that the temptation is real out here. Now, why would you go out to that strip club with your friends knowing that there's gonna be endless amounts of temptation there? You know what I mean? It's like there are certain things we just gotta stay away from. Like if I'm trying to quit smoking or drinking, I can't keep going to bars and clubs and even kickbacks and just hanging out with my friends when I know that they're gonna be drinking and smoking for most of the time that we're gonna be there. Other things such as like, okay, you know what? I wanna stop gossiping, but why do I keep sitting around people who all they do is find ways to talk about somebody else? So just even if I'm not joining in, just me being around them and, constantly hearing what they're having to say, and then whether I laugh here and there or I never say anything, it's like I'm exposing myself to hard temptation. And what about, like when we tell ourselves that, I want to abstain from sex, I want to, stay away from sexual immorality, right? Yet, you find yourself allowing yourself to be in the same room privately with the person of the opposite sex or with someone who you possibly might be attracted to. And in the back of your mind, you're thinking like, nah, I don't have no intentions of doing this with this person, or nah, I mean, like, I'm good, like we're all right, like I don't want that, I don't want this. It's not all about just like what you want, right? You don't know what can change in that moment that'll change your desires. And truth be told, temptation is always something that you secretly want deep down on the inside. So let's say that there's a guy that I'm not really into, right? And so I feel like I can be in the same room with him privately, whether his house, my house, wherever, where there's an open door open for temptation. And because I'm thinking that I'm not into him and I don't see, him that way, it's like I don't protect myself mentally, psychologically. I don't set barriers to ensure that I don't get myself in a rut. And then what do you know? Before you know it, you end up sleeping with each other. So temptation is very, very sneaky because it plays on the parts of you that you leave unguarded. It plays on the parts of you that you're not even paying attention to because you think that I'm so above that, or like, nah, that's not even whatever, or that you don't even think to guard, right? It's the punch that you don't see coming that knocks you out, right? Like, so the goal of your opponent, of your oppressor, of your opposition, of your enemy, is to always feast on the parts of you that are most vulnerable, to feast on those parts of you that you leave unguarded because you don't expect to be attacked there. I don't expect to be tempted by someone that I'm not attracted to. I don't expect to be tempted with gossip by my professors and the students that I'm in school with, but it happens. I don't expect to be tempted with drinking alcohol and smoking weed or whatever because I'm not into that stuff, but it happens, right? We're not always expecting to be tempted with certain things. And therefore we leave ourselves exposed, right? And then when the thing presents itself to us, rather than us finding an exit strategy, we sit there and we negotiate with it. We negotiate with temptation like as if it's something that we just have enough willpower to just beat and defeat. It's not that simple. Let me tell you all about a quick little Bible story that is very popular with Samson and Delilah. So just a little background, Samson, he was one of God's chosen people to rule over Israel, to be a judge of Israel at that time for a period of time, right? And he was like a real life superhero. Like imagine Hulk with Thor and Wolverine, just minus the claws and the hammer and all of that, just pure strength. Like this dude was insanely powerful. And so you have this guy who is supposed to be like a protector, a deliverer, helping Israel, the nation of Israel, to be free from the Philistines, right? And he goes ahead and decides that he wants to be with this woman from outside of his people named Delilah, who he had no business being with, on enemy territory. That's how cocky that Samson got, because he knew how powerful he was. He defeated people, time and time again. He ripped apart lions and with his bare hands. Like this dude was no joke, so he became so used to his powers that he became very sloppy with his work, right? And so he thought that he could just do whatever he wanted and, he would always be able to get out of it. Now, I'm skipping over a lot of details because I don't have enough time in the video to really break all of them down. So some of these Philistine rulers, they approach Delilah, which is Samson's woman, and they're like, hey, we need you to find out what makes this man so strong. Find out how we can tie him up and torture him. They give her specific details of what they want to do. We don't just want to kill him. We want to literally torture this man because of the havoc that he's caused on our people. And so she goes ahead and she does this without hesitation. The Bible doesn't mention that they threatened her or her family or none of that. Just go do this, and she just did it, right? So she goes and she pesters this man and tries to get him to reveal his secret. What is the source of his strength? And so Samson, he is now playing around with Delilah. He tells her false things like, oh yeah, if you tie together the hair on my head and you do this, if you do this, and if you tie me with 7 new ropes and strings and blah, 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 then, anybody will be able to torture me and blah, 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 blah. So he does this to her 3 different times. So now, after the 3rd time, she's like, bro, are you serious right now? You can't possibly love me, because every time I'm asking you to be vulnerable with me, you give me a lie and you set me up. So now, after she keeps just pestering him, the Bible says that he is miserable to the point of death. He wanted to die. That's how miserable she made his life, because he would not tell her the truth about where his strength came from. So finally he gave in and he just told her. He told her the truth this time, after the 3rd time. And so after he told her the truth, she set him up, got the Philistines to come in there, tie him up, torture him, poke both his eyeballs out, and then cage him up and put him in prison. So it's so easy for us to point the finger at Delilah and be like, oh, you know what? She was the cause of this. She's a traitor. She's this. While all of that is true. But what role does Samson have to play in all of this? He got to be able to look at himself and see that the cracks were forming in his own self even before Delilah got there. I'll get into more of that in a different video, but Samson is a broken man. He was a broken man. And it's he was just playing with his food. It's like a lion, when a lion lets his prey get a head start. When he's trying to chase a deer or something, he gives the deer a head start just to make the catch more exhilarating. And that's exactly what Samson was doing. Just giving her lie after lie, just to test her out. And every single time, she proved her guilt. She proved that she was setting him up. All 3 times. Until the 4th time, when he told her the truth, it actually worked. And so the Bible even mentions that, when the Philistines came to attack Samson and to torture him, he thought to himself, oh, I'm going to just get out of this the same way that I always do. It's literally written in the Bible how he thinks like this. I'm going to just overpower them, with my strength. And one thing he did not account for is that the Spirit of God had left him. He played around too much with sin. He played around too much with temptation. He started to treat it like it was so ordinary. And so God eventually parted from him. And so, spoiler alert, he does redeem himself. Not in the best way, not in the way, it's a very sad story, but he does redeem himself. And the mercy of God still showed forth in his life. Because the Bible says that immediately once his head was shaved, that his hair started to grow back and he started to gain him some strength, right? So I want to focus in on the part where we're playing around with sin and we're negotiating with temptation way too much. We don't have to. We really do not have to do that. If you're telling yourself that you want to make certain changes in your life, you want to avoid certain things, certain people, certain places, you want to get away from certain things, you have to set these certain boundaries and barriers in place so you don't fall victim to that thing that you're trying to avoid. But our problem is we get so cocky, we get so confident in ourselves that we start thinking that we could do it alone. We start thinking that willpower is enough to get over this and to overcome that and to combat this. And we fall flat on our faces every single time. You didn't expect that the gossip would come from your very own, boss or your very own professor or your very own family member. And so while you're over here like, oh no, I don't want to entertain gossip, you don't plan for what form the gossip is going to come in. You don't plan for how the temptation is going to come and attack you. It's not going to come and attack you from some people that you don't care about or just some random people that you just, like, all right, I don't ever got to see them again. Like, Satan is too good. He's too crafty. He's too good at what he does to do that. He baits us in with the parts of us that we don't even realize that are weak. He plots on our weaknesses. When you have an opponent that you're fighting, the objective is to find their weaknesses. Why would you keep giving them body shots if they're a big dude and they can take body shots? So you're going to study them and find out what are their weak points. And that's going to be your main focus. And that's what Satan does to us time after time after time again. If he knows that my weakness is sexual temptation, he's not just going to tempt me with sex with somebody that I do want and that it's obvious and I need to stay away from this person. Sometimes he might even tempt me with the people that I don't even think that I want. Because he doesn't care who it is. He just wants me to fall, period. So he's going to use whoever he has to. He's going to come in disguise. Someone that I'm not even into. Someone that I'm like, no, I would never. Or no, that person's not even on my radar. And then he's patient, right? So he's patient because he's there and he's studying and he's just like, playing around with temptation and make it seem more acceptable for you until you eventually cave in. I'm not just going to naturally go to a club, that I know there's like weed and hookah and smoking and alcohol and this all around. Sometimes it might be, me going to a friend's house for this or that, or, me going to a corporate event or anything. And then it's like that temptation is there. Just one drink, just one hit, just one this, just one that. And you got to find out whatever that is in your life that you're trying to avoid, and don't try to do it alone. It never works. Don't even negotiate with temptation. It's not worth it. It's not. Because even if you succeed the first time, Satan is persistent. That's one thing about him, because he didn't just leave Eve alone when she said no the first time. Because she did reject him the first time. She was like, nah, God said we shouldn't eat from that tree. But he kept coming, he kept coming, he kept coming. And he eventually found an open window, a crack in the door, to weasel himself in and get her to do the very thing that she knew she had no business doing. So we got to keep ourselves guarded at all times. If we say that and it doesn't have to be so deep, right? It could be stuff like procrastination. It could be time management. It could be like, you trying to change certain things about your personality. So stop thinking about it in such like a superficial way, or like it has to be this grand thing, like, just church stuff. Like, no, it's everything. You got to guard yourself. And so you need to find out where your weaknesses are and ensure that there are certain barriers that you set in place to prevent you from falling into that pit, right? Like, Certain things that you know, I should not cross this line. I should not allow myself to go here. I should not entertain these types of people. I should not be around this type of atmosphere. I should not go to these places, because then I'm exposed to temptation. And temptation is like the hardest thing that we have to fight. That's why even God doesn't tempt us. God tests us, but he does not tempt us, because our flesh is too weak for temptation. Okay? So I hope that I was able to get through and that I made sense to you guys. And I challenge everyone to please find deep down, like, what it is that is a temptation for you, what it is that's been a thorn in your side, what it is that you've been trying to stop, you've been trying to avoid, you've been trying to combat, you've been trying to let go of. And then you need to find the weak spots, the weak points, the parts, and just completely avoid it altogether. Don't think that, oh, like, you know what, I can be around them and blah, 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 blah. Nah. We need to start getting serious about sin. We need to really get serious about the things that we say we want to stop doing. Because the more lax we are about it, the easier that we'll continue to fall into it. Time after time after time again. So, that's it, folks. I will catch you guys on the next video. I would love to continue talking about Samson because his story is so rich. Like, the different layers of it is immaculate. But I'll probably do so in future videos, and just dissecting the different parts of his life. And as y'all know, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Don't forget to like this video and share it with the people you know. Catch y'all in the next one. Bye.